Welcome to the History Experiential class, How to Make Iron Gall Ink. Iron Gall ink has been used since the Middle Ages and was very popular up until about the 20th century. It's very simple and easy to make. The main ingredients are oak galls. These are very high in tannic acid. Iron 2 sulfate. Iron 2 sulfate is sometimes called copperas in the historic recipes, or is sometimes also called ferrous sulfate. And the last ingredient is Arabic gum. This is used as a thickener. Every recipe has some form of liquid, but they all vary in the amounts and the type of liquid. The most common one is, of course, water, but they specifically ask for rainwater or snow water. You want the most pure form of water. No minerals or alkaline might contaminate the quality of your ink. Sometimes instead of water, they'll ask for white wine or vinegar, or sometimes it'll be the combination of both. So let's get started. First, you want to take your oak galls and you want to crush them or put them into a processor to get them into a powder. You then take your water and you dissolve your oak gall powder into your water. Now, you don't necessarily have to have it as a powder. I have done it where I've just crushed it. Sometimes the recipes will say to bruise your oak galls. That's just so that the water can secrete easily the tannic acid from the oak galls. So you continue to mix this until it's fully dissolved. You let this then set for a minimum of 24 hours up to 8 days. The longer you sit, the more tannic acid you can secrete from it. For this particular recipe, it's from a 1770 recipe that only asked for 24 hours. But what I found is that 3 days gave enough tannic acid to produce a quality ink. So here we have some of the tannic acid that's been secreted from the oak galls. The next step is to take and strain off any impurities. I'm just using a coffee filter and a strainer. So from here, you then pour in your iron 2 sulfate. And the iron 2 sulfate is going to have a chemical reaction and this is where the magic begins. So we're dissolving the iron 2 sulfate, and now it's turning from a brown color into a deep, rich black color. Now, technically you have ink at this point, but if you try to use a quill or a metal tip pen, it's not going to flow very easily. You need some form of thickener, and that's where the Arabic gum comes in. What I recommend though is that you take a tablespoon of hot water and you dissolve the Arabic gum so it forms a paste before you dissolve it into your solution. Most of the recipes don't call for that, but what I found is if you don't do that, you end up with just a lump of the Arabic gum at the bottom of your ink, and it doesn't fully suspend throughout the solution. I think some of the recipes, when they call for it, must strain the ink before you use it. I think that was because they had that same problem. But I found that if you dissolve it and it becomes a paste, it dissolves very quickly in your ink, and it makes it a lot easier to stay suspended, and instead of having it become a thick lump at the bottom. So there you go. That's all you need to do. Now it is ready to write. So I have transferred the ink into a small bottle. And the one thing about Iron Gall ink is that it will be very faint when you first, especially when it's fresh, when you first write it, and as it dries it becomes really, really dark.